Hey everybody, Shep and I, for the next 4 shows, we're taking a road trip. We're taking over MLS Headquarters.
We'll talk about what it takes to win a championship.
It's our preview of the 2008 season, next on ET. Hey everybody, welcome to MLSnet.com's Extra Time. I'm your host, Greg Lawless, alongside Shep Messing as always, and we are inside MLS Headquarters right now. We're in the boardroom, surrounded by all the trophies, the banners of all the teams, and this is the first of a 4-part series previewing the 2008 season. Shep, we're going to start with the newest team to join MLS, the San Jose Earthquakes. They've started building a little bit. They had the expansion draft where they got some decent players. They picked up Ronnie O'Brien. They brought in Ramiro Corrales, made a couple of trades, but it's a team that the strengths in the back, pretty much where they are, but not great strengths.
Yeah, Greg, I think you're right. Starting to build a team is the operative word. I'm a little disappointed they haven't done much after that. If they do have a strength, I'd start with Joe Cannon in goal, and I love Cochran in the central part of the defense.
Well, certainly a couple of winners there. Cannon won a championship with San Jose. Ryan Cochran, 2 championships with Houston. But you can shore up the defense all you want. You still have to score some goals. And to me, I just don't think Ramiro Corrales running the center of the midfield is really the solution. So some of their weaknesses, certainly going forward. Gavin Glinton is not really a great solution trying to score some goals either.
Well, I think you identified the big weakness. Who's going to score goals? Maybe they have some creativity out of the midfield. They have Grabavoy, I like. They have Ronnie O'Brien. But up front, very unproven.
They brought him in from Toronto, but he's been injured so much. So if he can stay healthy, I think he's one of those players that he might be the only player on San Jose that other teams will fear.
Well, I agree that Ronnie O'Brien, if healthy, is a great player. But I would put more of an onus on young Kai Kamara. He's only scored 5 goals in the last 2 years. If he doesn't produce goals, they're in a world of trouble.
Well, he has a lot of work to do, but he has a chance to make his name, that's for sure. Now, every one of these previews that we're going to do, I'm going to ask you a final question, Shep, and this is the question. The San Jose Earthquakes, they will win MLS Cup if?
That's a joke question, right? I think if you turn the clock ahead, they get in a time machine in 5 years, allow Frankie Yallop to build.
Yeah, well, 2008 is a building year for the San Jose Earthquakes. Well, there was a lot of noise up in Toronto in the first year of TFC. The fans were fantastic at BMO Field. Unfortunately, they didn't really have that much to scream about. The first year in Toronto didn't go so well. They ended up in last place, but they made some big changes in the offseason. Head coach Mo Johnston moved up into the front office. They brought in John Carver from England, who seems to have brought some organization. And when you talk about the organization, Shep, you have to obviously talk about the back, starting in the back. Greg Sutton, the goalkeeper, is back from injury from last year. They have Tyrone Marshall and Jim Brennan, a couple of veterans in there, and they have some good athletic youth in there as well.
Yeah, Greg, I think you're absolutely right. And I'd make the argument on the defensive side of the ball. You talk about Carl Robinson in the midfield, Maurice Edu. These guys, I'd match them up against any pair in the midfield.
And certainly, and Maurice Edu becoming an international star as we've watched. Now, unfortunately, though, going forward, this is where their main weakness is. You know, they have Jeff Cunningham and Danny Dickey up top. They don't have anyone in the midfield that's going to really be able to get them the ball, though.
Yeah, there's no question. They're looking for that catalyst, that attacking midfield player. Some talk about discussions with Amado Guevara, but they're missing that player who can get the ball to the guys up front.
We know Toronto is talking to Amado Guevara. El Lobo, however, is likely not going to be available until sometime in the summer. He would be a big pickup for them. They're going to have to figure out some way to score goals. Now, the key player, though, you and I both agree on this, is Julius James, the rookie out of UConn. This is an MLS-ready player. He's got the mentality for it. He's got the physical ability of it. And this is a guy, I think, who could end up being a superstar in this league.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's got the skill on the ball, the athleticism. He comes from a winning program at UConn. I spoke to his college coach, Ray Reed. He said about Julius James, this is the kind of kid character I'd love it if he were my son.
Well, Toronto fans will have someone new to cheer for. Hopefully, though, they have a little more to cheer about. Shep, Toronto FC will win MLS Cup if?
Greg, I would say no chance, but I'm going to give them a glimmer of hope because I think the fans are unbelievable. So if every one of the players on their roster has a career year, they could win the Cup.
If they win the Cup, those fans will really go insane, even more than they did in 2007. It was a tumultuous offseason for FC Dallas. They lost 2 starters in the backfield, but they picked up Duilio Davino, the Mexican international. They lost Carlos Ruiz, obviously one of the greatest goal scorers this league's ever seen, but Kenny Cooper comes back from injury. So lots of question marks about how they're going to end up this year. Now, one of the biggest strengths, Shep, is obviously in the midfield. You have Juan Toja and Pablo Ricchetti. These two players, they had a great 2007. They showed that they can control the midfield for Dallas. This is a team that could do something huge in 2008.
Greg, I'm confused about Dallas. Sometimes I think they're great. Sometimes I'm unsure. I think part of my hesitation is the necessity of young players really to step up. You talked about a very good midfield. I agree with you. But McCarty, Alvarez, these are young players who have to do it consistently throughout the season.
Well, certainly, and that youth is one of the weaknesses as well, probably. Last year, there were some questions of maturity and whether players were mentally ready to step up. You also have some young players like Anthony Wallace is in there. You also have Breck Shea, the new 18-year-old. Are these guys ready to step up and contribute?
Well, we have to see. Again, it's the mix of the veteran experience. You have Divino, the international Mexican central defender. Again, it's a new format, 3 in the back. So a lot of things we don't know until they start playing for real.
Yeah, well, I think the key is going to, again, be Juan Toja. In the midfield, this guy in 2007 showed he can score goals. He showed that he can set up his teammates. However, there's a lot of questions about that. Is he a flash in the pan? Will he then start to pick it up even more and lead this team a little bit more? I know you feel, though, that Divino would actually be the key player.
Yeah, I do. Toja was brilliant in the beginning of the year, sort of tailed off. Very good player, but the key for me in a 3-man back line is the Mexican international. If he could provide, I know he can physically, but if he can provide that leadership, act as the general back there, organize the guys in front, I think it makes a big difference.
A lot of questions whether Divino will adapt to MLS after Mexico. The last Mexican center back that came to MLS was Claudio Suarez. He's done pretty well at Chivas USA. Shep, FC Dallas. They will win MLS Cup
If Greg, the spine of the team, we haven't talked about Salah in goal, if the spine, Salah, Divino, Toja in the midfield, and Kenny Cooper has a huge year, they could win the Cup.
Well, a lot of ups and downs in the offseason. This is a team that's had ups and downs throughout its history. Maybe 2008 will be an up year. So for the final segment of these preview shows, we're going to change venues and show you a little bit of MLS headquarters. Right now, we're in what's called the Green Room, where the employees for the league can come and watch games on these televisions here. And it's a good setting, I think, to be talking about Los Angeles because they would love to be here watching LA on TV as often as possible. Now, a lot of changes in the offseason. New coach, Ruud Gullit, the Dutch international, was brought in to take over the team. And maybe a bigger change even, Carlos Ruiz, El Pescadito, brought back to Los Angeles where he scored a ton of goals. And really, goals and scoring goals, that's the theme for LA in 2008.
Greg, there's no question. You talk about the strength of this team. David Beckham, a healthy David Beckham, playing at his best outside wide right position. Landon Donovan and Carlos Ruiz up top. Even though I prefer Landon running a little bit deeper out of the midfield, that's a potent team going forward.
Well, Ruiz must be just chomping at the bit to start getting some of those balls from Landon and Beckham to start scoring. Now, another thing that I think is a great strength of this team actually is Gullit. He's come in and he's emphasized fitness since he's been there. This team, he's decided, is going to be the fittest team in the league and a bunch of organization. He's coming from an AC Milan Italian style. He wants them to be very, very organized, especially defensively. Unfortunately, right now, I think the personnel in the defense is a big problem for them because they brought back Greg Vanny. They have Abel Xavier still in the middle, and those two, veterans, yes, but they're slow.
I don't think there's any question. I love Klein as an outside back, but I don't like their back four other than that. They have Alvaro Perez in the midfield. He's supposed to be maybe that holding midfielder, but I really question them in the back. Vanny at his best was an outside back, not a central defender, and playing next to Xavier, I'm worried about that.
The key player for me is Greg Vanny, and I think of it because he's standing next to Xavier on the field. Vanny has to play well. He has to be the catalyst in the back, controlling everything. He's got a very young, inexperienced keeper in behind him. So I think Vanny and his experience is going to be key for this team.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I come back to the man behind the back four. You talked about the goalkeeper, Steve Cronin. I mean, you need real games under your belt. For me, he's not MLS tested, and I think he's going to be facing a barrage of shots.
Well, he's been there for a couple of years, but again, only 6 starts. Now, Shep, the Los Angeles Galaxy will win MLS Cup if.
Greg, this one's easy. if the Galaxy keep the ball in the attacking third for the entire season and they don't have to defend, they'll win the Cup.
Well, a 7-6 win is still a win, and it still counts for 3 points. And maybe this year, the Los Angeles Galaxy will make the playoffs. So at the end of each of these preview shows, we're going to give you our predictions of where these teams are going to finish in their respective conferences. And Shep, we'll start with your predictions, and you have San Jose in the traditional spot for an expansion team.
Greg, no surprise. I have San Jose finishing in 7th place. Expansion year, they're starting to build a team, but not enough there to do better. And Greg, I put Toronto in a similar boat in that I don't think they went out and made enough improvements on their team in the offseason, so I also have them finishing in 7th place. As for FC Dallas, that one, a very difficult one for me to pick. I think they need all their young players to play well. I'm not sure they're going to do that, so I have them finishing in 5th place. As for the LA Galaxy, I definitely voted with my heart instead of my mind. I have them coming in 4th place. I don't know why. I'm a big believer in David Beckham. If he's healthy, maybe he takes this team to a better position than normal.
Well, Shep, unlike most weeks, I actually agree with you on every single one of these. San Jose and Toronto, they're both in the same boat as it stands right now. Dallas, for me, again, too many issues about whether they're going to be able to perform at the top level or not. And I tend, I guess, to be pessimistic about it because of their history so far. Los Angeles, I actually don't vote with my heart. I vote with my head because I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ruud Gullit, and from what I've heard that he's been doing so far in terms of organization and his belief in fitness. This is going to be an Italian-style team, and Beckham has come into this, and he looks healthy, and he looks motivated, and that's a huge factor. So those are our predictions for these 4 teams, but in a couple of days we'll have another preview show as the second part of our 4-part series of previewing the 2008 season. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this one, but Shep and I will be here and we'll kick it around.